opportunity available to artists in Erie County that is being presented by the City of Erie, specifically through CAFE and their board. I'm sure Aaron Lonke will mention more about it, but CAFE is the nonprofit arm of the City of Erie. I think these sessions are good so that folks can learn more about the public art opportunity as well as the application process and ask any questions they may have to those that are administering the project. This evening, joining Erie Arts and Culture is Aaron Lonke, as well as Maya Carroll from the City of Erie. They are going to be who is facilitating this evening's session. If you're not aware, the call to artists for this opportunity is available on Erie Arts and Culture's blog, as well as the City of Erie's website itself. Aaron, perhaps you would like to type it into the chat function as well so that everybody has it just to be certain. But with that, I will go ahead and hand this over to Aaron and Maya.
Awesome, thanks Patrick. Can everyone hear me? We good to go? All right. I'm Aaron Lonke. I'm the president of CAFE. It's a nonprofit, like Patrick said, the nonprofit arm of the city. A couple of the projects we do, in addition to what we're talking about today, is we do a number of events like Celebrate Erie, the fireworks on July 3rd, and we do a small concert series for seniors called Sounds of Summer every year. And that one in particular, we use these bandwagons for the program of those concerts. So tonight, I want to talk to you about what we're doing with this project. It's a couple years in the making, been looking for funding to do this, but right now the city has two bandwagons. They're about 30 feet long. They're basically like smaller truck trailers that you'd see on the road. But the one side flips out and you have the stage for performances. We go to nearly about 40 different locations around the county in a normal summer. So these will be out and about from everything from the Greek Festival to Celebrate Erie to the Cherry Festival out in Northeast. So these do get quite a bit of use in the summer months. So I just wanted to start out by saying, what's the point of the project? What are we looking to do? So we want to commission an artist to make artwork, create artwork for both of the bandwagons. Ideally, we would have the artwork connect subtly between the two of them, but it's not going to be an exact copy of one to the other. The artwork, we want it to be communicating aspects of Erie's unique identity. So the identity should be a cohesive blend of the stories of Erie, keep in mind past and present, things that evoke emotion and resonate with our residents here. So encapsulating that spirit of Erie, what makes Erie unique, what aspects of Erie deserve to be celebrated. So examples of some of the public art we've seen are in the RFQ on pages 6 and 9. So we do have some of the stuff in that document from different cities like Philadelphia and Chicago and different places. But those are meant to give a little bit of a spirit of what we're looking for these Erie themed, this Erie themed art. It's important to know that the artwork is going to be installed as a vinyl wrap. So the artwork final files would need to be in a vector or a high-res image format that we can print. So that's going to be the installation, and that's going to be taken care of by the vendor. It's not anything that you would have to be responsible for. But the artwork would be on the bandwagon. Usually these vinyl wraps last about 5-7 years or so. And we would, like I said, go to all these different places around the county, 40 different events that we would go to. So where you come in and what we're doing tonight, I want to open it up for questions. So this is an RFQ. So qualifications is what we're looking for. We want to see, when you apply, we want to see your artist biography, the creative, the artist statement, what emphasizes the nature of what your work is and your artistic process, your CV, relevant experience, portfolio pieces, if you have a website, and just an explanatory text about some specific artwork that if you wanted to add to it, you can, just to kind of explain everything that you've done. So this is not when you apply, we're not looking for an actual rendering of a design or anything like that. It's just, we want to get a feel for you as an artist and the work that you've done so that we can make a decision on which artist the selection committee is going to choose. I'll stop there and open it up for questions about anything I've talked about, and then we can go from that point.
Do you want to click over?
Aaron, would you like to go over the timeline a little bit? Not just the deadline for submissions to the call, but also what your projected timeline is for when concept and designs are due, when final artwork is due, and then when installation will actually take place by the vendor?
Sounds good. Yeah, so our
Aaron, you're muted.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, thanks. We will, I'll just go over the timeline real quick. If everything goes on track, what we're looking at doing is October 30th, the end of the month, on Friday, October 30th, we will close submissions for applicants. At that point, we'll take a couple weeks to review all our portfolios and make our selection of the artists. So we would know that by November 13th. When we look at November 13th, moving on from there, that's when the selected artist would do the design and make sure that all the any questions that they have in the contract and that sort of thing is taken care of. And then as soon as the contract's signed, we would take it through from November 13th through December 11th. So that gives you enough time to get the design together. We come back and review it one last time and see if there's any revisions that need to be made. So that would be from that mid-December, December 11th through Christmas season. So we're looking at December 23rd. We'd have that time to review. You'd come back with revisions by actually January 22nd. So we give you basically another month to get the revisions done. And then the final design, we're looking at the end of January, January 22nd. That would be the final design. You hand us the print files and we'll take care of the rest, getting the artwork together and then giving it to our vendor. Our target installation is early March to get all this done. And we've factored in enough buffer time that we can adjust accordingly. But I think by March is when we're looking to get everything together as far as the whole project would be done and installed ready for when it warms up next summer. So any questions on that? Anything on top of mind from anyone here? I do want to say thank you for being here as well. We're excited for this project and it's awesome to see some interest in this whole project. And I've been working on it for a couple of years trying to get funding for it and everything. So what do you got?
I had a question for you, Aaron.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about this and like, I think it would be, it's a really cool design. I'm looking at some of these examples here and there's a lot of, there's a lot of details within the design. And I'm wondering if like your final artwork could be, extracting elements from that and using elements for other like advertising purposes, social media, etc. Is that idea across your mind, or is this like strictly for print purpose on the structure?
So let me see if I'm understanding the question. So the final concept of this would just be on the structure. I mean, are you asking if we would do any like advertising? Explain that a little bit more. Like,
yeah, so like say like for example, I'm looking at the one bus, it has like 5 heads on it, like gotcha. I'm thinking, you could use one head per advertisement or something like that. I'm not trying to like dissect this too much, but I just thought like, you have this beautiful artwork, would you use it for more purposes?
I haven't really I guess I haven't thought that far ahead to see what if we would continue that piece throughout other art pieces or advertisements or different things around the city. I guess it would be dependent on, what we would decide is the contract between us and the artist, and then also what we would see what the artwork would look like. I can't speak tonight. So,
Aaron,
I-
may I interject based off of experience? Is that
yeah.
fine? So typically what we recommend for contracts with public art is that you have one contract that is between the artist and the client specifically for the creation of the work itself. Within that contract, the artist maintains the copyrights, though the client maintains the physical rights of the work. In those contracts, typically best practice would be that the artist grants permission of use of image for some key purposes such as educational purposes, etc., but all of which are non-commercial purposes. And then typically within that contract, you would state if there was a desire to use the image.
Remember they said Julia was there? I was like, Julia was there.
If you're desiring to use the copyright of that work for commercial purposes down the road, then you would execute a separate agreement with the artist. But typically I wouldn't recommend working it all into one agreement, because I think if you're looking to use the work for commercial purposes down the road, you start to have to get into licensing and royalty agreements that I think extend beyond the current artist stipend that you're offering.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, and if we were to extend this beyond, I agree with what Patrick said. It'd be at some point it would be a separate contract out of what we would look at doing. But as of right now, I just intend for these to be artwork installed on the bandwagon, and if it comes to something more than that down the line, then we discuss it with the artist then.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Despite the general abstract thematic nature of the whole thing, is there any specific copy or titling or text or anything that needs to be involved in the design, or is it just meant to be completely general?
Yeah, we kept it more general. I don't want to pigeonhole any art or artist. It's about Erie. So whether you visually represent that or you use a word mark or whatever you feel like represents that is up to you. I think ultimately we're looking for your creative vision, and my goal in not giving too much detail as far as exactly how that looks is to kind of just open it up to interpretation. What I can say is we do have a couple sponsors. We would need room for the ECRA and Erie Community Foundation logos because they are paying for it, but I'm not talking like a big piece. It would just be a small area that we would need to make room for. But as far as the artwork goes, as long as you're encapsulating that spirit of Erie, I don't want to put words into any more than capturing that, what I said before. Does that help? Okay. Got a few more of you on here.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Hi, Jerome.
What are those bandwagons used for?
Yeah, so performing arts, they can be anything from a band, solo artists, usually music. So it's like a portable stage is basically what it is.
Yeah, all right. Because I think I've seen them before because I'm not too familiar.
Yeah,
So like performance, like a stage, all right.
yeah.
So it could be like music themed or I don't know what else.
Yeah, so most of the time it's going to be music on their performing arts. Sometimes they'll do just, a kind of in a lecture style, they'll have an event, but they're pretty diversely used as far as can do a number of events for different things. as far as the artwork goes, I mean, incorporating that into it, I mean, that's the use of them. So that'd be kind of a cool take on it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
With the style of these specific vehicles, is it something like they're the types of things that like fold open, right? So is it something where like the artwork is only going to be on the outside of it where you don't see it when it's completely set up? Is it something that wraps onto the inside as well when it's all set up? I mean, I'm kind of curious about what the actual execution of something like that looks like from closed to open.
Sure. So the one side, like you're describing, does fold up. So the project here is going to be exterior, so it'll be the exterior sides and then front and back. We are working on the inside. Another part of this project is to put acoustic panels on the inside, which don't exist right now, to kind of help with the sound. So that's what would be on the inside per se. But while these are traveling, while these are at events, we want this to be a mobile art installation that people can see. So when it does open up, you are going to lose that one side of it, but this is for the exterior of the vehicle.
And typically at events, you have people approaching the bandwagons from all sides. So even though they might be watching a live performance from the front of it, to get to it, they've passed by the sides or walked behind it, etc. Aaron, refresh my memory. Was there images of the bandwagons included in the RFQ?
I actually did not have them in the RFQ. I'm going to consider making an addendum as soon as I have them. And also, I'm waiting, by the end of the week here, I should have the dimensions of it so you can have a better idea. Unfortunately, I did not have those ready and measured out for the first time. But if you keep an eye on the website, as soon as we have it, I'll make an addendum so everyone can see that.
And once you have the images of the bandwagons, if you can send those to Erie Arts and Culture, and we'll share it out through our social media as well.
Sure. Thank you. Is there anything, any other burning question? I can go over a couple other items, but any other question right now?
Just for point of clarity, for the initial design, like, so this first part is just an RFQ, so you're only looking for more or less a portfolio from the artists. The review committee will look at those portfolios and make a determination on the artist or artist team that they want to award the contract to. Once you have that artist in mind, they will be offered a contract. And once it's executed, they'll get a first installment of payment, I'm assuming. Once the preliminary design is provided, I'm imagining they probably get another portion of the payment, and then the final payment when the final artwork is provided to the vendor. With the preliminary design, are you actually looking for a sketch or just a concept that can be communicated verbally, and then from that you'll give them the green light to actually execute the artwork?
Yeah, I want to respond to that in a couple ways. I'll get to the breakdown of what the signing and the contract and the installments look like, but in answer to your question, I think it's important for us to visually see a sketch so that when we get to that point, we can have an idea and the concept fleshed out both visually so we can see it, and then, and explained as well so that we can, as the selection committee, figure out the direction and figure out any feedback that we would have for that. As far as the installments go, I do want to mention it's a $3,000 design stipend for this project that would cover both bandwagons. 25% of the stipend is going to be paid at the signing of the contract. Then we'll give 50% paid on the approval of the preliminary design. And then the remaining 25 will be upon submission of the final design. So it'll be a 25, 50, 25 contract set up that way. I'll just go over a couple more things so that we cover everything tonight. We went through that. So what we would like to do is when we get the design together, or the preliminary designs approved, we want to recognize the artist that's been selected. So we would have a time to have a news conference about the project with the city and the mayor, and just announce that we've selected our artist and they're moving forward with the project. The other thing that I did want to mention is we talked about the bandwagons. They're about 30 feet long, and I'm going to get those images out to everybody, and I apologize for not having those yet. But the project has been funded. We do have half of it's, one of the bandwagons is funded by ECRA and the other one's by the Community Foundation. So they, each one respectively would just recognize, you know, on a small piece of it, just the logo of their funding. So the applications, Maya here, Maya's been very quiet tonight. She's actually taking this on, this project and organizing the bulk of it. So Maya's at Edinburgh University now, and she's been an awesome help and member of our team. She's going to accept the submissions at her email. So mcarroll@erie.pa.us. That's in the RFQ. And Maya, if you want to, we'll put the URL in there too. So yeah. And then your email. So everything you need to know is going to be on our website, erie.pa.us/bandwagon. It's in the chat. And all the submission materials, the PDF to the RFQ is there. And Maya here will be the one organizing and facilitating when people submit and getting us through the process. In a nutshell, I think that covers the information itself. I think the most important things to know are the deadline on Friday, October 30th to get your portfolio and the other items together that were listed. So that would be biography, CV, artist statement, letter of interest, examples of past work, a link to your website if you have one, and then anything else you want to include. That whole list is on in the RFQ and online, and October 30th at 5 is the deadline to get that in. I think you've asked some good questions and got me thinking about things that I need to get to you. What else do we got? Anything else?
I'll also say if anybody needs help or assistance putting together their response, putting together a portfolio for submission, they can feel free to reach out to me at Erie Arts and Culture. I just put my email address in the chat.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
And Patrick, this may fall in your category as well, but I'm wondering, when you're looking at portfolios, are you looking for a variety of styles and genres that an artist has covered, or are you looking for one strong look? You know, like, I don't know. I've applied for a few RFQs through the city now, and I'm wondering if I'm better off putting a variety of pieces, because the number of pieces that I've done have been commissioned work. Therefore, the style of my portfolio is really a pretty big variety. Okay.
I would say the best answer I can give you is take a look at the pieces we have in the RFQ. Make sure that you're familiar with kind of that feel that we're, that Essence of Erie feel that we're going for, and just kind of make your work, I guess, go towards the direction that you feel you were going to do the project with. And anything applicable that would be visually more along the lines of what we would see on the bandwagon would be helpful, I think, for our team to digest. it's good to have a well-rounded portfolio. But the more, I guess, the closer you can get to what we may be looking at, I think it's easier for us to see and make that determination then. Does that answer your question?
Can I also put some input in there, Aaron?
Yeah.
AJ, I would say play to your strengths. Obviously, if you are being commissioned by a client, sometimes the work that you're producing is in line with their tastes as opposed to what your strengths might be. Not all the time, but sometimes. So I would say I don't know how many work samples the RFQ calls for, but if it calls for 7 or 10, pick the 7 or 10 that you think really represent you and your abilities the best. Thinking about putting together a competitive portfolio, because at the end of the day, your portfolio is going to be compared against everybody else that's submitting. So I would put together the number of images that you feel best represent your capabilities and abilities.
I have a quick question, Aaron, and this may have already been discussed, but you are selecting one artist or one artist team to complete 2 separate designs for the 2 bandwagons. Is that correct?
Yes, that's our intent. So that same artist or artist team would do both of the bandwagons for the stipend. And I think that if at all, our intent would be that they can somewhat connect between each other, that they're not the exact same art, but that feel and that style could be translated on both so that it functions as a similar piece. But the details with that, we would have that conversation before, as we put together the contract and talk to you about after the selection would happen.
Okay, sounds good.
Aaron, just to reiterate too, you're expecting all work to be submitted to a vendor as a digital file. So even if someone is perhaps not a digital artist, but they're planning on painting in acrylic and then scanning that, etc., they're still going to have to take into consideration that whatever the work they're doing in the long run is going to be scaled up to, potentially 30 feet. So if you have digital works in your portfolio, being able to showcase that skill set too is probably a good idea.
Yeah, the final artwork, so it's prepped for production. It's going to have to be either in a vector file that we can make any size we need to keep the proportions correct, and then or a high resolution image, or like Patrick said, a high resolution scan, so that we can print effectively. So the files that you hand us on a drive or on a link should be everything ready to go, exact size with the proper resolution for printing.
Will I'm assuming your vendor is Fast Signs. I might be wrong in that assumption, but if it is, are they going to provide exact schematics for the bandwagons?
Yes, actually our engineering department at the city has mapped out exactly what the dimensions are for all the pieces. So they are going to have that to me hopefully by the end of the week in a digital format, so that we can show everybody and post that as part of the addendum.
Do you anticipate there would be any other requirements for post-production? Like would the vendor require different types of files or maybe bleeds, or to design outside of the dimensions in order to cut it down? Is that something that the artist would work out with the vendor, or?
As soon as I have all the prep specs at the point of contract, we go over that with all of you. I don't have the vendor exactly locked down yet. We're in between 2 of them. So I would, from my past experience in graphic design, I think that it would be safe to bet that we would need a bleed, so that it is a piece being printed, and that we would need a bleed to cut on the edges, and then of course the correct file type. But I would know all that as soon as we get the vendor locked down, and then we have some time before this between the selection and the contract that we can go over that.
You actually have two artists in the call this evening, Durham as well as Jackie, that have both submitted digital works for production and installation on vinyl. I don't know if either of them would be interested in speaking to what their experience was and how they had to submit the artwork to the vendor.
I can speak to that for a minute. So I was just working with Patrick with a project for artwork on State Street, and working with that. I'm actually a watercolor artist, so a lot of my artwork I created by hand, and then as Patrick mentioned, I scanned it in and kind of collaged everything in a sense digitally, and made my files that way. So you do have to think about how it will scale up in size. And if, I'm working with a small scanner here, so I want to make sure the resolution looks good and it's not pixelated. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but it worked out. And also just working with the vendor, it was important to have the sizes and the specs and everything from the beginning, because there was a little bit of backwards work, if that makes sense, because I created a lot of artwork, but we didn't have the exact measurements for a little while. So that's one of the important things that I would want to look out for in future projects.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, for me it wasn't that hard because the art I work on is on Adobe Illustrator, so it's already like vectored. So I just had to, once I got the blueprint for the utility boxes, I just had to adjust for the shape, and it's pretty easy because I used geometry and it wasn't that hard. But yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for stepping in, guys. I appreciate that. You've done this before, so thanks for sharing.
How much information are you looking for in like the artist biographies and all that stuff? Like, is it of much importance outside of the portfolio, or is it more just red tape?
I wouldn't say it's red tape. I'd say we're trying to get a feel for you as an artist and, you as a person, so that we can figure out everything about this is going to go into your look and feel and your essence as an artist. And that all helps. So when we talk about your biography or your statement or your CV, I think it's just as important for us to see that piece. And then it is obviously to see your portfolio. So I wouldn't call it red tape necessarily. I find it fascinating when I'm going through these things.
To speak to that too, Erie Arts and Culture consults a lot on the writing of the RFQs, as well as sometimes the contracts between the artist and the client. What we try to do as a capacity building agency is prepare artists to be able to apply for opportunities outside of Erie. And typically any public art opportunity you see available through national list sites are going to require exactly what this job requires. But beyond that, as someone that's administering a project, if you're trying to put a press release out about the project, you typically just want to be able to copy and paste something from the bio, from the artist statement, so that you don't have to try to hunt it down after the fact. So I think that we're asking for all the material on the front end so that when it comes time to execute the contract, publish the project, et cetera, we have it. But then also the experience is very valuable for artists who are interested in careers in public art outside of our local community.
How else can I help? Patrick, you've been a huge help for us as well. Thank you for all your insight there. But Maya and I are here. Any other thoughts or questions while we're with each other right now?
So it doesn't sound like we have any further questions. We do have the direct link in the chat function for the RFQ on the City of Erie's website, as well as Maya's email address in there to remind everybody who's in the Zoom call and who might be watching this on Facebook. Maya is going to be the direct point of contact within the City of Erie on this. I also want to remind everybody that Erie Arts and Culture is available to help individuals as they approach putting together their portfolio for submission. I'm not sure if Facebook actually publishes the chat function within this, so I'm going to take the opportunity real quick to read out the material that's been typed in there, which is for the RFQ itself. You go to www.erie.pa.usa, or sorry, US /bandwagon, and then Maya's email address is mcarol@erie.pa.us, and then my email address is patrick@erieartsandculture.org. If there are no further questions for Aaron and Maya, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, whether you joined via Zoom or you watched on Facebook. I'm thrilled to see more public art opportunities being presented in our city and in our region. I encourage you all to apply if you feel this opportunity is a good alignment with your talents and interests and time. Aaron, Maya, do you have anything else to say before we close off for the evening?
I really appreciate everybody for being here. I'm excited that there's some good interest in the project, and just thank you. Thank you, and we hope to see your work by the end of the month here, and we're excited to get the project moving. So much appreciated, everyone. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a good evening.